half of the connections are not there, a lot of things that could have been done in parallel are written there, serial and whatever you want. We haven't seen yet one case that the SPERT diagram made any sense. You know very well that there are traditional techniques of how to write this SPERT correctly. Please use them. Why? Because it's the first time that these SPERT diagrams will become real working tool all the time. It's not going to be one shot and after a week they're worthless. They are becoming the real working tools all the time. So please, you sit on them and work, do the SPERT diagram again, but do it with all the people involved because you have to take the times estimate and to move part of the time to the end. You cannot do it for somebody else. If you gave an estimation, and after that you will see that all of a sudden I've cut your estimation in half, you will tell me you do it. You will not collaborate at all. You have to be part of the team that does it. Yes, you will fight. But then when you put the time, you will try to stand it. Is it understood? Yes or no? This takes time. This is essential. And before you are causing people to do it, will you please explain to them what you are doing, and everything that we talked about today has to be explained to everybody, otherwise nobody will collaborate. Remember, in multi-project environment, there isn't exactly full trust of people in their top managers. Don't fool yourself for a second. Okay? You have to explain it in full, and even then it's a huge fight. And that's okay, but remember one thing, the buffer must be 1/3 of the total lead time. If one is insisting not to cut the time, fine, as long as you put the buffer to be 1/3. Don't worry, this person, because of the social pressure, will not have student syndrome, and next time when he's coming to give the time, people are giving it by their experience of the past. Next time he will cut the time drastically. That's what's happening. And it's improving and improving. Remember, the rule is not to cut the estimation in half. The real rule is the completion buffer is 1/3 of the total lead time. The feeding buffer is 1/3 of the total pass that fits it. Is it understood? That's the thing that always stays. Get a consensus to do that, and remember this is a lot of work. The PERT network as they exist today are worthless. How to do it? The conventional techniques are good. They're simply not used. But they're really good, do it. Don't fool yourself that you can take the PERT network as they are now. They're simply wrong. Unbelievably wrong. Then, get a consensus to stagger the projects according to a chosen drum. This is at the top level of the people in charge of all this area of multi-projects. It's not involving many people. The fights are quite good. Once again, you will stand the chance of really agreeing on it only if you explain everything in detail. Take your time. Otherwise, nobody will agree that he will be the one at the end. Nobody. Even though everybody benefits tremendously. Even though the one in the end will finish much, much earlier than he ever had before, and he will not have to chase everybody, nevertheless, at this stage, you know how people are saying, you know what, yes, I agree, the theory looks beautiful, I'll be the first, you'll be the last. Then, the next thing is, put the mechanism to enable smooth buffer management. That's essential. In a multi-project environment, if you don't put the buffer management in place, nothing works. Buffer management means every project manager and every resource manager have to have online access to know exactly what's happening in the buffers. Online! Don't give me printed reports, especially not at the beginning. Because I'm nervous and I want to check all the time, and I know more than that. I know that if you told me to work on that rather than that because of penetration of the buffer, maybe there is a mistake in the PERT. I want to check it. Is it understood? Yes or no? I will not change it, but I want to check it, and if I see that it's wrong, I'm going to talk with the project manager. But the nervousness is huge. Online access of all of it. In large multi-project management, it means that the software must be part of the system, not a side application, part of the system. So I can reach this information all the time. Please listen to me if you really want to get the results and fast. Not that it's absolutely mandatory. There were cases where people have done it without the computer, simply because there was no computer system at that time that could have done it. One of them is beautiful. They released their results at the, to the public domain. It is the maintenance of wide-body aircrafts of Israeli aircraft industry. But what they are doing buffer management by hand. And that means all the top guys, everyone in charge of every part of the project, everyone in charge of every resource are meeting once a day, and that's holy. Basically what they're doing is they're doing the buffer management, so everybody will understand it. Holy. But what they've said, what they've announced to the market, you have to understand this market of passenger aircraft maintenance is throat-cutting market. It's not exactly flourishing market. And they've said, and they've published their results, they said that in April of last year, they already covered the entire operating expense. Everything after April was gravy, was net profit. Can you say it on your company? How many companies can say it at all? And this is huge multi-projects where the unknowns is huge. Because let's face it, before you really inspect the aircraft, you don't know how much work is there. Phenomenal uncertainty. And this is the results. And yes, they've done it without computer, but with enormous management collaboration and daily meeting. Now we know that if you have the computer, but again, online, not a separate application, online, part of the systems that everyone can, without any problem, all the time check. Everyone for me means every project manager and every resource manager can check all the time what he wants. It works beautifully, and you don't need this daily meeting. As a matter of fact, one per month is more than sufficient. And even then, the meeting is very, very short. The results are phenomenal. Project management is probably the most chaotic environment that exists today. Don't confuse the fact that the drum, the ones that you stagger, it is not a bottleneck. It has enormous amount of excess capacity on it. It's not a bottleneck. But as you continue on and you moved already 3 generations of projects, it does become a bottleneck. And then you have to provide another buffer to make sure that the bottleneck never starves. Is it understood? About. Doesn't matter. You have time until you reach it. You have to reach 3 times through it. And yes, things are improving and improving because people do give estimates according to their past experience. And as the environment improves, the estimations become better and shorter and so on. And very quickly it becomes second nature. That concludes project management. And now we'll try to answer questions. Not too difficult questions, please. Guy Brill. Guy is an old friend. Guy, you can ask me...
Shalom, Eli, and good evening.
Shalom, good evening. You can ask me always when I'm in Israel, but go ahead. It means that you have probably a real tough question. Go ahead,
well,
Guy.
at least I hope something that would interest others. We in Elbit Systems are successfully applying TOC and the Concerto software for managing in a multi-project environment. A key question that we are addressing is to what level of detail the project network should be built up. Currently our projects are maximum to about 400 tasks, the usual number being 200, 250. Some of us would like to see more details in project networks for better control. I'd like to ask what your opinion is about this.
I knew it. With such friends, I don't need enemies. Look, the first thing that I believe that everyone should know is the following. No matter how big is your project, and by the way, Elbit projects are huge. You are talking about refurbishing a whole fleet of combat aircraft with all the fancy Empire Strike Again electronics and so on. These are huge, complicated projects. Nevertheless, never ever go in a project and describe the project by more than 400 activities. As a matter of fact, when you go into 400 activities, you're already taking enormous risk. If you go to more detail, finer details, the finer the detail, the bigger the uncertainty in the estimation. you cross the threshold where you start to deal with things which are definitely inside the noise. This will kill you. Every company that deals a lot with projects have defined on their own this rule. For example, when I worked with the oil company of Norway, Statoil, their project is to put these huge rigs in the North Sea. These are projects that sometimes are $4 billion. Their rule was never to exceed 300 boxes in their port, because otherwise you lose totally visibility. This is correct up to a point. This is correct up to a point that you have excellent computer system that now enables you very, very good execution, like what Elbit has. Part of the system, you are now really in control. There is no debate about what to do and where to concentrate. And now comes the question, which is, under that environment, I can go to more details simply because I've reduced drastically the level of the noise. Now, it does make sense to go to more details, not at the project level, but at the local supervision level, part of the project, make more sense to make more details. And that's probably, Guy, where your question is coming. Am I right?
Yes, you are. The major issue is whether we can actually have extra additional details by lower level programs or subsystem or LRU level where we could attach them to the higher level program.
Your software can do it. The question is, can we manage it and how much benefit will come out of it? My answer is, I don't know. So you know what, Guy? Try and tell me.
Very well. Thank you very much, Eddie.
You're welcome. Armando. Armando, from Mexico?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Goldratt. This is Armando from Mexico. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
As a matter of
Let me
fact, I
ask you a
should
question.
put some caveat. I'm fine so far. Now let's see what's your question.
Okay, doctor. How do you overcome the natural human resistance that we will face to convince the people involved in a project when you have to tell them that they have to trim their times by half and wait to start their project when you stagger them? Because you will face some resistance for sure.
No, if you will do it, you don't face some resistance, you will face a rebellion.
How do you
The
face
chances then of success is zero. No, what you have to do is to take the time and to do exactly what I've done today. In other words, you have to spend a lot of time of explaining exactly why the current reality is as we see it now.
Okay.
If you noticed, I've spent more time on explaining what is the current reality than explaining the solution.
That is
You will
correct.
have to do the same. Only when you get a consensus from the people that that's the reality, and then you take much more time than I took in order to expose the solution. You don't give the solution, you cause them to develop it.
Okay.
Which means do exactly what I've done, but take about 4 times the amount of time that I took. You'll be amazed. People will come with the solutions.
Okay.
If they came with a solution, they will cut the times. If you came with a solution, kiss it goodbye. Ever made myself clear?
Yes, very clear.
By the way, it doesn't take much time. Pair a whole group of people, and by the way, do it with all the people per project together. You can do it with all the top management first. But then, per each project, take all the people involved and do it together. Because if you do it one by one, everyone will tell you, I agree, but he will never agree. And as long as he will not agree, if I will cut the time, he will kill me. You have to do them to do it in a group. And then it works. And then it really works. And the fact that it's working is not because of speculation, simply because now dozens and dozens of companies are doing it. Now, what they're telling me is the following, that on average, per each project, it takes about 4 days. 2 days to get the consensus that that's what we're going to do, with all the people involved, and about 2 days to rebuild the PERT diagram.
Okay.
Once again, it's the same people involved.
All right.
So you have to spend about 4 days per project. This looks a lot, But look on how much time you spend in a project when you don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay? The returns are very quick, very, very quick.
Excellent.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. Luis, from
Hello,
Brazil.
Dr. Dorot.
Porto Alegre, that's a beautiful town, by the way. How's the weather, by the way, in Porto Alegre?
It's very nice, good weather, sunny and hot.
Good. What's your question?
Yeah, I'm just the facilitator of our site. I have one person here who make a question. And the question is, nowadays, there are few companies in Brazil that are moving towards...
Slowly, I don't understand the word. Slowly. Again.
Sorry.
Nowadays,
Nowadays, there are few companies in Brazil which are using concurrent engineering, or simultaneous engineering.
yes.
Yep. And the question is how the critical chain approach can help these companies.
Look, concurrent engineering is dealing with things which are very important in project management, but has nothing to do with what I was talking about. These are two pieces that you have to put together. In other words, the concurrent engineering is more in terms of how are we going to construct the project. What should we do to construct the PERT itself? What will be the content of each task? It's not touching almost at all the scheduling and execution of the project. When I've talked about all these 3 hours, I assumed that the conventional wisdom in project management is done. In other words, that the techniques of how to build the PERT is correct. I know that people are not using it simply because you put so much effort and then after a week you don't have anything. But the techniques themselves are good. If you want concurrent engineering to work, you must do what I've done, what I'm telling you. Otherwise, 90% of the efforts of concurrent engineering is wasted. Did I make myself clear?
No, yes, I agree with you. And what I'm wondering is if there is synergy.
Yes, perfect synergy. More than that, it's more than synergy. It's almost one is necessary condition for the other.
Yeah.
TOC, I'm now just lecturing the things that we have to do differently than before. I am not lecturing on things that we have to do what we already know what to do. Concurrent engineering is good. I'm not trying to advocate it again. I take it for granted. At the same time, I know that concurrent engineering with all the good efforts and all the good intentions is not used correctly simply because the chaos and the noise is so big that nobody has a time for it. Everybody is running after fires all the time. This does not mean that concurrent engineering is wrong. It means that in order to enable to use correctly concurrent engineering as is taught today, you have to change the way we manage the projects. In other words, you have to move into critical chain. Then you really get the benefits of concurrent engineering. Perfect synergy. I'm sorry that I haven't made it clear because I took it for granted.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you back in Porto Alegre.
Yes, one of these days.
Okay, bye-bye.
Jim, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, Doctor. Nice to talk with you again. My question today is, with respect to the next project, where would the start time be plugged in? For example, on page 76 of your book.
As if I remember it by heart. Wait, page 76 of my book. Okay. You mean the notebook, right?
Yes, in the notebook.
The one that you write your comments, and by that you make it into a book. Which
Correct,
means you are really the author. Yes, in page 76, yes.
Would the start time of the next project be after the completion buffer, approximately day 110, or would it be approximately day 60, or somewhere in between?
Let's not confuse two things. Page 76 is showing how to deal with one project. Your question relates to the staggering of project, which is how to put one project after the other.
Correct.
If you look on the projects that I put, you'll find something amazing. The drum is resource, if you look on the project as described in page 64, you see that the drum is actually resource F, the red resource. You see, the red resource per each project demand 4 different tasks. And here, in this example, all the tasks are of equal time. Everybody else needs less than 4, which means the drum is on the red resource. The red resource is not on the critical chain at all. The way that we stagger, in other words, relation between the projects, and the way that we are planning the single project are unrelated. One is going according to the drum, which is dictated by the most loaded department or resource. The other one is according to what dictates the lead time per project, which is a critical chain. This means what? That, for example, on this project, I will decide, fine, I'll do this, 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 and this, which means the second project, this operation of the second project have to start here in time. Since this one is going at this point in time, the whole project moves with it. Have I made myself clear?
Yes, you have.
Thank you. But I think that you have highlighted very important points that maybe I didn't make clear enough. Critical chain is per each project. The drum is the one that connects between the projects. The drum might not be involved or might be involved in the critical chain.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Robert? Robert?
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
My
You're from Washington?
deals with,
Yes, go ahead.
my question deals with establishing the time to complete a project when bidding for a project. The question is, should the critical chain 1/3 time contingency method be applied to the bid, or would it be better to take the individual contingencies, cut each in half, and apply the bid?
For heaven's sake, if you will cut each one of them in half and apply the bid, you will not meet the due dates that you promised to your client. Moreover, nobody internally will collaborate. Cut the time in half, put a completion buffer, so the completion buffer will be 1/3 of the whole time. That's the time that you apply for the bid. Don't worry. If all your competitors are using about the same technologies that you are using, you will come out as the one who promised the shortest lead time. And at the same time, you are by far more protected. Protected in the sense that you have a very high chance of delivering what you promised. Never ever strip the completion buffer. Never. You are exposing everything. More than that, you will collapse the whole system. You will cause a total distrust of the people who have to do it. Is it understood?
Yes.
Sure?
Oh, yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's have a question from the audience here.
Okay.
You want to give it?
Yeah.
But a nice one.
A nice one. No, in current situations, you have people that are very creative, people that like to do rework, people that want to do a lot of stuff to make things happen.
Correct.
And how will they work in the new environment with TUC? Is that lovely for them to work in that way?
Yes. Even better.
Even better.
Let me explain to you why. Let's look on the basic conflict. Can I have it on the screen? Look on the following. We have another assumption here at the bottom. In order not to jeopardize any other original commitment, we must not compensate for early estimations of consideration. Why? Because we assume we cannot find a trick of how to do it without money. Now, these people that you are talking about are these brilliant people that when their back is pushed to the wall, all of a sudden they say, wait a minute, why do we do it in this way? We can do it in that way, and we can get the same thing even better with no money. Okay? Unfortunately, if you are trying to solve all the time the conflict by these inventions, what you are getting is chaos. Okay? More than that, many times these people are so frustrated because they are saying it, nobody is there to listen. because people are so busy in the firefighting and don't want to take more risks that they ignore what they're saying. If, on the other hand, you are putting what we said here, and now this operation is consuming time in the buffer, doesn't mean that we are going to be late yet, right? We still have a lot of buffer, but this is the one which is the most important to take care of. Now, let's hear these geniuses.
But they can change meanwhile.
Perfectly, why not?
Okay.
Why not?
But they're changing the network then.
So what?
Okay.
So what?
You
The
had to-
network is not holy. So we'll change the network. So you'll update. So what? You see, such changes I'm not afraid. Why? Because this change is crucial for the whole performance of everything.
Yes, sir.
So why not? This one is something that I'm willing to change for it.
That's a good
I
answer.
don't want to change for every hiccup. I don't want to change for every mismeeting the schedule. But if I'm getting such an idea that not only helps tremendously, but I don't have to sacrifice for it anything, yes, I will reschedule. So you will reschedule once in 2 months, big deal. By the way, as much as we love them, they don't come with better ideas than once in 2 months. More than that. The mere fact that you have listened to them, and now you have the time, and you really look on them, half of the ideas, they themselves, after looking on it much more, say, as a matter of fact, forget it. This is exactly where we want them, but we create by that the environment in which these people can flourish and being recognized. Today, most of them are not recognized.
That's correct.
Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jeffrey? Jeffrey? Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Good evening. Good evening to you in Europe. The question from Mexico is this. According to project management by TOC rules, which would be the best indicator to evaluate a person's performance?
That's exactly what I'm working on right now. And I'm hesitating to give you any answer because I haven't checked it yet thoroughly.
This is our problem. We need an answer.
This is one of your This is one of your problems. Come on. Send me an email in about a month from now, and then either I will have the answer or I will ask for another month.
All right? Okay.
50-50% chance.
All right. Okay.
But what you've asked is one of the biggest problems. As a matter of fact, I'm working on it within the framework of how to evaluate individual performance in any environment, in any function.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me 2 or 3 months ago, I would have told you I don't know at all.
Okay.
If you ask me today, I think I'm asking for another month. I think that I have the answer, but let me check it first.
All right, because what we're looking for is the measurement of creativity, imagination, and initiative.
True, I know. And more than that, and responsibility.
Right? I'll send you an email in a month then.
Yep.
Okay.
And send me an email in a month from now. I hope that I will have the answer, or I will tell you, forget it, I don't know.
All right, we keep in contact.
Please.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Kramer from Barcelona?
Yes, good evening, Dr.
Good evening.
Goldratt. I'm speaking on behalf of Jordi Torres, and the question deals with the following. We're dealing with a customer-vendor situation where the customer is responsible for the project and the vendor is responsible to execute certain tasks. What can the vendor do to improve the lead time performance of the overall project?
That's not enough of a question. Reverbalize your question in the following way. What can you do to induce the vendor to improve? How do you like that?
Good question.
A lot. I didn't cover it in these 3 hours, and I don't want to do a disservice to this question. Have you read Critical Chain?
Not yet.
So will you please read it? I have devoted 2.5 chapters in that book for exactly this question. More than that, everything that I wrote there about this issue is checked and working beautifully. Now you will not have any problems to understand this book. Pay close attention to these chapters that are talking about the situation where most of the resources that are doing the project are subcontracted. They're not part even of your organization. How do you do then the contract with a subcontractor so that even though they are not even part of your organization, nevertheless, it's working according to what I've explained? Then my recommendation to you is get a videotape of, you can get it from the Goldert Institute, of a testimonial of the Rydell Group. This is a group of car dealers. Now, what do they have to do with project management? Since they are using TOC in all the other aspects of their business, they are opening a new dealership every 2 months. Opening a dealership is to build the whole building and the garage inside and so on and so forth. This is a project of about $8 million. They are working only with subcontractors, with vendors. And if you want to see what is written in Critical Chain, but in more realistic terms, you know, with names of vendors, with the details and so on, I believe that this videotape, which is about an hour presentation, given by the owners of the Rydell Group, is the best videotape on that subject. You will learn a lot from it. The key is in the contract and the preliminary planning that you are doing for the vendor. So you don't have to ask the vendor to change his whole operation. Because remember, you are not his only client. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, 2 things. One is read the Critical Chain, pay close attention to these 2.5 chapters. If I'm not mistaken, it's chapter 18 and 20, but I'm not totally sure about the numbers. Anyhow, it's a nice novel, so you will enjoy it. And then get hold, if you really have a major problem with your vendors, get hold of this tape of the Rydell Group.
Thank you very much for answering so comprehensively, Dr. Goldratt.
I felt that I didn't answer comprehensively. I almost chickened out of your question, but yes, you will get all this information in these references. And
thank you very much.
I think that this concludes the program. At least we are running out of time. Let me tell you a little bit. What we have talked about today, you see to what extent it's a continuation of what we've said in the previous program and in the previous program before that. The next session will deal with something which is very important, and this is distribution. Only then we complete the supply chain. And because of it, I will not just deal with the distribution in the next session, I will go into completing the measurements for the supply chain. If you notice now in each session, I have to go back to measurements. I've done a lot in the previous session, but I couldn't do justice to project management when I've talked in the previous session because the base was not there. So I am dealing with the problem of measurements in each session from now on. It's part of how to run a business. The next session, I will complete the whole supply chain. So we will devote minimum half an hour to the problem of measurements and contracts within the supply chain. I believe that this is essential. Thank you very much. I hope that you will not bore too much this session. Next session will be even more interesting. Thank you.
This concludes our broadcast for today. We hope you've enjoyed it, but more importantly, that you now know a new way to make improvements in your environment and how to make that change. Good luck with your improvements. We'll see you again next week for Session 4, Distribution and Supply Chain, according to the Theory of Constraints.